Can't roller skate in a buffalo herd. Can't roller skate in a buffalo herd. You can't roller skate in a buffalo herd. But you can be happy if you've a mind to. You can't take...
Hi.
Hi, my name is Ben Somsek. I'm a junior technology education major, and this is...
Cullen Reed, and I'm a junior engineering education major.
We are making this video as a general overview of our literacy across content areas class. The idea of using a Google Community in the classroom is new to us, but we feel that it can be used very effectively. It can allow students and educators to communicate with each other outside the classroom. In past education classes, we have been introduced to the idea of internet-based communities, but this is the first time we've ever actually applied it. Sean's November 1st post had an article talking about the importance of teaching literacy in content areas. The article defined literacy as being able to make sense of and engage in advanced reading, writing, listening, and speaking. Someone exhibiting these advanced literacy skills can do so in any setting, including academic or casual. The article then breaks down literacy in the content area into specific content being taught, and the literacy is how it is presented to the students. The article also strongly advocated for scaffolding in the speaking, writing, and reading areas. Sean's great post highlights the importance of literacy across content areas, but he did have one criticism. He pointed out the lack of oral or visual literacy covered in this article.
I really enjoyed David's November 21st, experimental learning cycle. This cycle had 4 stages to it, and they should all be continuously used. The first stage is doing/having an experience, and that would be doing the lesson for the first time and finding out what is wrong with the lesson. The second stage is reviewing/reflecting on the experiment. That would be comments or suggestions that the students or other teachers who saw it might have. The third one is concluding/learning from the experience. Either that is finding the problem and either scrapping the whole design or actually redoing the lesson and revamping it to make it even better. The fourth stage is planning/trying out what you have learned. And that would be like next year when you have a different set of classroom students. You would go into the lesson, newly improved lesson, and you would basically just revamp it to see if it was any better than the previous year. This learning curve is always growing, and when you plan a lesson, it'll never be 100% efficient on the first time. You need to plan it out, have your students try out the lesson, and then you need to revamp the lesson that you created to work out the kinks and flaws. Once you improve your lesson, you can try it out on your students again the next year, and then you will see more improvements as the cycle continues. This is always an improving lesson, and it can always be improved for later years. I like this post because it does not pertain to any specific subject. It could be applied for every future teacher in the classroom, and every teacher has a lesson plan, and every lesson plan needs adjusted to better fit the students, along with helping them understand the concept better. I personally will talk about one of my posts that I talked on the Google Community on October 29th, and it is about our nation's literacy gap. The main topic of it was the percent of 4th grade students reading below the grade level. I grew up in Cleveland, Ohio, and it is right now at 92% of the 4th graders reading below the grade level. That is very unsettling to me because obviously that's a huge percentage, and it's pretty bad because America used to be one of the leaders in education, but lately have been falling to other nations. But at least Cleveland's not Detroit.
My post on October 25th is a cartoon that talks about the importance for teachers to not only allow their students to use internet resources, but also teach their students how to find reliable information and credible sources. I have been in classes in my high school career where the teacher did not allow us to use any internet resources, partly because they didn't trust us to find good sources. In current times, the internet should be our most valuable resource, and students should be taught how to adequately use it. Everyone knows Wikipedia is not acceptable, but often teachers don't explain to the students why it's not acceptable.
Some of the great ideas we got from the Bluffton teachers were getting students involved and interested using the cool kits. So an interesting topic that the teachers brought up was how to get every student involved and enthusiastic in the lesson. If a lesson were to call for students to come out of their shell, kind of break out a little bit, it might be hard for some students to do that without being self-conscious of themselves and how other students perceive them. Many students are too involved with their perception on how they look to actually fully engage in one of the lessons. So the teachers at Bluffton suggested to call on the cool/popular kids for examples. These kids might be more likely to act more enthusiastic, and then if they act more enthusiastic, other kids will actually be more likely to follow in their footsteps.
Another thing I thought was interesting that the Bluffton teachers talked about was adapting to the new groups of students that you see every year or semester, depending on how your school's set up. It's like as soon as you get to know them, you have to start all over again with a new group of students coming in. Getting to know your students is the key to adapting your curriculum so that they can maximize their potential. Expediting this process can give students a good head start on learning. This can be challenging when you have to regularly start over with a new group of students. We thought building a community in the classroom is important, and especially now with the prevalence of technology and internet in the classroom, that an online community is important. Google Community, I think, is a great start, but maybe for high school students, it could be toned down a little bit, maybe around one post a week, one comment a week, something like that, just to kind of keep down the flood of new content and it'd be easier to stay on top of everything. We also came up with a suggestion box that could be reviewed maybe on a weekly basis. And instead of it being totally anonymous, the students could each have an ID number. And so that way the students don't know who is suggesting each suggestion, but the teacher will be able to know whose ID number is whose, and that would hopefully keep down the useless nonsense things that adolescents would put in a suggestion box.
I would also like to see maybe spending a little bit more time a week talking about current events. I know this isn't pertaining to the class and maybe not for the math class, but I believe it is great for building a global community and informing the students about what's happening there. I believe it would be great for just 15 minutes, maybe on a Friday or on a Monday, to start off the class. Just tell them about current events that are happening in the world around them today. This would inform the students, get them informed on the information that's happening around the world around them, and this would bring together the community because they would want to help out the world, and it'd be just a little segue from learning about math all the time or engineering all the time. And these facts of the students, they'll inform the students on popular issues in the world, but also in our nation too, and not to mention that these kids are going to be turning 18 soon, so they'll also be able to vote, and it'd be great if they would be informed on the topics that they'll be voting on later on. So overall, we believe that the Google community was not used to its full potential. The community has the potential to thrive and benefit each student in the class as well as the teachers involved. Looking back on David's post, I believe the Google community can be greatly affected by the learning cycle. The community was presented to the class and experimented for the first time. After the reflection, the Google community could either die or it could be revived with a bit of tweaking. One suggestion is that the moderator to provide a weekly theme to have articles connected instead of a stream of random topics.
I talked a little bit earlier about maybe cutting down the posts to maybe one a week, one comment a week, something like that, to kind of cut down on the total stream of new posts that you'd see in a week. I know from my own experience talking to my cooperating teacher at Ada High School, Mr. Klingler, he said the couple times that he logged on to look at the community, he was just overwhelmed with the amount of the information that was being posted, and he said that he almost didn't know where to begin.
My teacher, actually, Mr. Boblet, also logged on, and he has very great ideas about using technology in the classroom, teaching robotics 1, 2, and then he also teaches statistics. He would love to post on there, but he felt like his post would just get covered up with a lot of students posting about either pictures or videos. And I feel like if we were to limit the posts down for maybe 1 to 2 quality posts for students, then he would post and other teachers would follow, and we would end up benefiting more from that system. So in general, we think the Google community is a good idea and worked well for its initial implication, but we could tweak the Google community to achieve better success for the future.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Well, you can't go swimming in a baseball pool. You can't go swimming in a baseball pool. You can't go swimming in a baseball pool. But you can be happy if you've a mind to.